Welcome back to DRS Zone, where we take the absolute white-knuckle chaos of Formula One and break it all down for you.
And what a weekend to do it.
The F1 Qatar sprint was, it wasn't just a quick race. It was a 19-lap pressure test that just exposed everything.
Oh, completely. It was a high-speed lesson in setup compromise, and we saw the established order just hit a physical wall. It was genuinely shocking how quickly those technical weaknesses came to the surface.
So that's our mission today. We are going to dive deep into the blow-by-blow of those laps. We're not just looking at who finished where.
No.
We want to understand why the hierarchy was challenged, what specific issues were ticking away for the front runners, and really how those mechanical problems translate into lost time on the track.
And there were two huge themes that emerged, right? You had the triumph of perfect setup management on one side.
And on the other,
the complete collapse of champion-level pace because of, well, severe physical distress on the car. Let's start with the triumph, though, because Oscar Piastri, wow, he delivered a perfect drive.
Absolutely perfect. A decisive victory in the sprint, and this was huge for him. It broke a 7-weekend streak without a podium.
A long time coming.
The sources are calling it his most awaited return at the most important moment. He just controlled it from the start.
It was such a clinical performance. He built that gap to Russell, held it over 2 seconds for pretty much the whole race. But here's where it gets really interesting.
Go on.
Even in the middle of all that, the car was under immense strain. Lap 16, so late in the race, he gets on the radio.
And says,
He reports certain type of vibrations.
oh, that's a heart-and-mouth moment for the pit wall. When you hear that, you're immediately thinking flat spot, maybe a lockup, or even worse.
Suspension damage from the curves, exactly.
So if he's dealing with that, why didn't the gap to Russell just disappear?
That is a fantastic question. And the fact that he held that 2-second-plus gap while managing the issue, it suggests a couple of things. First, his management was just exemplary.
Kept his cool.
Totally. But second, and this is crucial, maybe Russell behind him just didn't have the pace left in the tank to really capitalize.
Right, he was described as being in no man's land again, secure in P2, but never really a threat to Piastri.
And that really confirms that the McLaren pace was something special. Russell grabbed second, which is great for him in what's being called his best season. But he had Lando Norris breathing down his neck at the end.
Norris finished third, basically doing damage limitation in the title fight. And he was on a serious charge, wasn't he?
Oh yeah, by lap 15, he was flying. He got that gap to Russell down to, what, 1.3 seconds?
Into the DRS window.
Right into it. Russell had to squeeze every last bit of life out of his tires just to hold him off.
You know, if you're watching this on YouTube, welcome to DRS Zone. We'd love it if you'd hit that subscribe button for more F1 deep dives like this.
And if you look at the raw data, the McLaren success was no accident. Both Piastri and Norris were two of the only drivers consistently lapping under that 125.0 mark.
That tells you everything, doesn't it? It's about the setup.
It's a masterclass in compromise.
Yeah.
The engineers clearly nailed it. Their setup could just handle the heat, the degradation that Qatar throws at you, probably better than anyone else.
Okay, so let's unpack this. If McLaren absolutely nailed the sweet spot, the championship leader was, well, nowhere near it. Max Verstappen's race to fourth was just a constant struggle. His radio was on fire with complaints.
Yeah, this was not the vintage invincible Max we're used to seeing. His car was fighting him the entire way. I mean, sure, he climbed 2 spots at the start, but the complaints, they started almost immediately.
Lap 5, he's on the radio saying, the bouncing continues to be very bad.
Which is that high-speed aerodynamic thing we all know about.
But then it gets worse, and the language he uses changes, which I think is really key here. By lap 8 or 9, he says,
I am constantly jumping. It is no longer just the bouncing.
Okay, so explain that. What is the mechanical difference between bouncing and jumping?
That is a massive, massive difference. Bouncing is porpoising, it's aero. You can often fix it by just raising the ride height a bit.
Right.
But jumping, that suggests the car is physically bottoming out violently. It's slamming down onto the suspension's bump stops, probably over those super aggressive curbs in Qatar.
So the very setup they chose to try and protect the tires.
Exactly. It probably involved running softer springs, which then caused the chassis to just repeatedly slam into the track surface. It made the car physically undrivable.
And you just can't perform when the car is that unpredictable. If it's jumping, your downforce is inconsistent. You can't hit the apex.
We saw it. He had that little look at Norris on lap 3, right? But as soon as Norris used the DRS to defend, that was it. The gap just opened up.
Pace just hemorrhaged away. It went from nothing to 1.2 seconds by lap 8, then 1.8.
Right.
The car was just fighting him too much.
And this just highlights how quickly a small setup flaw becomes a huge time loss. The Red Bull, usually so dominant, was completely undone by this specific issue on this specific track. A jumping car is a slow car. Simple as that.
That explains so much about what happened at the front. All right, let's pivot. Let's look at the chaos in the mid-pack, because that's where we saw some incredible drama and a whole lot of penalties.
The midfield was the lab, wasn't it? It was the test for what happens when your tires go off and the stewards are watching your every move.
Let's start with the Spanish drivers. Alonso finished 7th after a good start, but he fell back behind the Red Bulls pretty quickly.
And then you have Sainz grabbing the last point in 8th. He defended well, but he had that terrifying moment.
A piece of carbon fiber?
Yeah, a huge chunk just detached from his car around lap 9 or 10. And yet, his pace stayed remarkably stable. It just shows you how much stress these cars were under.
Speaking of stress, the track limits were basically another competitor out there. The stewards were busy.
Constantly busy. I mean, it felt like every other lap there was another warning.
Yuki Tsunoda got the black and white flag on lap 11, that's the warning, and then boom, 5-second penalty on lap 14.
And it wasn't just him. Kimi Antonelli also got the warning flag late on, and a penalty, even though he had a great race to finish 6th.
But this wasn't just careless driving, right? There's a reason for all these violations.
Not at all. It's a direct result of that high degradation we talked about.
Yeah.
Your rear tires lose grip. The car starts to understeer out of the fast corners, so you have to run a wider line just to carry speed.
And that pushes you right over the white line.
Every single time. The penalties are just proof that the drivers were fighting the balance of their cars right to the absolute limit.
But in all that chaos, we got a brilliant overtake. Antonelli's move on Alonso on lap 13 was just beautiful.
It was pure opportunism. Antonelli had the pace. He was the only one in that group who could open the DRS on the car in front. He knew Alonso was struggling.
And he pounced.
He saw Alonso run just a little bit wide into the gravel on the final corner, which killed his exit speed. Antonelli just sailed past in the main straight, a perfectly executed move.
And then there's the strategy curveball that just screams desperation, Lance Stroll.
Oh, that pit stop.
Pitting on lap 14 of a 19-lap race to change for soft tires, I mean, that was not the plan.
Not a chance. That is the ultimate admission that your strategy has failed. It means his medium tires were gone, completely shot. He had nothing left.
So let's pull all this together. We saw a perfectly executed race from Piastri. We saw Norris and Russell bank crucial points because their setups worked.
And we saw a champion in Max Verstappen literally fighting his own car's violent mechanics.
So the real opponents out there were track limits and tire management.
Exactly. And the key takeaway for you listening to this is that direct link between the mechanical setup and what the driver can do. Piastri managed those vibrations, showing how skill can push the limits of the machine.
But Verstappen's car jumping showed that sometimes the mechanical issues just create a wall that even the best talent can't break through.
And that leads us to the big question for the Grand Prix. A final thought to leave you with.
Go for it.
Given everything we saw, the high degradation, the severe mechanical distress on a top car like the Red Bull, our team's going to play it safe. Will they run more conservative, maybe stiffer setups for the full race just to guarantee reliability?
And if they do that,
could that compromise hand the main race victory to a team like McLaren, who proved today they have tire wear completely mastered? It's a huge strategic gamble.
That is the challenge for the engineers. Reliability versus pace. This segment has been part of our news coverage of recent F1 events. A massive thank you for diving deep with us today.
Always a pleasure.
Make sure you hit subscribe and follow DRS Zone on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube so you never miss a breakdown. We'll catch you on the next one.